Take a look. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. Hello, Danny. How are you doing?
Hey, hi, Jason.
Hello. How's the weather in Singapore?
Well, today is not bad. Not too hot. Not yet. Hopefully, it's not raining. So yeah, it's been quite a hot few days lately.
That's
But
good.
yes.
It's really cold in Taiwan. I mean, like 18 degrees is cold for us. Yeah, but it's been raining 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I really miss winter, especially during this time. I still remember last year I was in Taiwan holiday. I guess that is a different time this year, right? So otherwise, I just told my wife this will be our family vacation timing.
Well, on the opposite, I'm missing the summer. usually I travel to Singapore, Malaysia 5, 6, or even 7 times a year. But my last travel there was February this year, so I haven't got a chance to go there. So I miss the sun. I miss the hot temperature.
Yeah, I guess there are a lot of people. Yeah, it's a very different year this year, but I guess hopefully next year will be much better.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. So I see people start joining. Let's wait for another 1-2 minutes. All right. Yeah. So for those who already joined us, so this is a series of webinar. So Danny and our colleague Tony already hosted one sessions. It's like the first release of our stress test. And this week we will be hosting 3 different sessions. So this one is the second section in English. And tomorrow I will be hosting another one with a Seagate Taiwan team for the with the Chinese language sessions for that. Yeah. It's a very nice stress test. Both of our team spend an effort on the testing. We learn a lot from that, so we like to share with everybody. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's been a very good close partnership with the NetOptics team globally. So I think that's is going to be a very interesting, very very interactive session. So hope that we can share more about what we are doing in this space as well. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I think we can get started. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, so thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today we are very happy to invite Danny Ling from Seagate to join us. And Danny will start their presentation by sharing with us our stress testing and what are the solutions and the overall trend they see from the storage industry. So after that, I will share a little bit more detail about the configurations and things we learned from the testing. All right?
All right. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. So thanks for inviting me to the webinar. So I'm Danny. I'm the Global Business Development Lead for Seagate, based in Singapore. So in my presentation, which I think Jason will share, I'm going to walk you through.
Hold on.
I'm going to walk you through more about what we are doing in the video surveillance space, and then also share a little bit more perspective about our solutions, and then we can go through what we are doing with NetOptics, especially today on the storage systems solution stress test that we have done. Okay, let's move on. Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. I want to start off with this particular slide that highlights one of the collaboration that we have done with IDC, which is a Data Age 2025 report. So everybody knows that data is exploding, right? So if you look at from CY calendar year 12 to calendar year 25, by the way, calendar year 25 is not very far off, right? It's only like 5 years away. We're at the end of 2020. So by 2025, IDC predicted that it's going to be 175 zettabytes created. So data will be created. Well, the source of data creation, video is absolutely one of the key driver of the creation when it comes to data, right? Because a lot of these are unstructured data. Structured data represent a small portion of it, but most of it is unstructured data. But when we ask, you may ask actually, what is actually zettabytes? I know terabytes, I know gigabytes, I know petabytes actually. So what is zettabytes? So 1 zettabyte equals to 1 billion terabytes. So it's a lot of storage that is being created. However, but we also know that not all data that's created will be actually stored. Why? The question is, why is not all those data not stored, right? Well, there are many, many reasons. Because number one, some of the data may not be as useful as it, because you have all these technologies, you would like to actually optimize it. Even assuming that the market can actually create those and all will be stored, there will not be enough storage capability and storage companies out there to be able to accommodate to this growth anyway. So there's only going to be 10%, right? We estimate that 17 zettabytes is going to be stored and installed. And as I mentioned, there are many reasons why, right? Data storage cost is one of that. How to manage data. Data security is very important, right? So many companies are finding ways to be able to store more. And one of the key things I want to highlight is from one of our recent events that we did in globally in the US with some of the CIO roundtables. One of the key insights that the CIO shared with us is many companies hiring data scientists. The role of the data scientist is do nothing but just make sense of data. But one of the things that the CIO actually highlighted was, if you are able to make use of data, right, which result in storing more data, retaining more data, it will actually result in increase of revenue and profit. Well, because more people know how to make sense of the data. In video surveillance, on the other hand, a lot of the data today is being stored. After a period of time, it will be recycled. That means first in, first out. We don't really retain a lot of data. That's because we think that those data is not useful. And those data is actually, we want to optimize that. But with a lot of technology right now that come into place, like AI, IoT, and all these things, we believe that if you want to get more insights, you need to store more data. But it doesn't mean you need to store all the data at the size that you require. You may be able to compress it, manage it, but all those are very important data that can be monetized at a later stage. Next slide, please. So we all know video is being used differently, right? In fact, we've been talking about, I still remember 13 years ago when I joined Seagate, we really started talking about, well, surveillance going beyond security, right? But the fact is during that time, was it a right time to say that? Maybe not. Video analytics was a key during that time. I still remember like companies like Object Video and all those things talk about video analytics. But it wasn't really a right timing because of the technology being used versus the technology right now that are available. I think AI is very different from video analytics. AI is driving a different ways and is definitely more intelligence, there's more solutions that we can, more use cases. We can really see that with the combination of technology, AI, cloud, and there are many factors that will need to drive the trends. So I think that right now is a better timing compared to 10, 13 years ago. But yet, this is an ever-growing, ever-evolving market, right? And a lot of this technology is derived from the IT market anyway. So a lot of the IT market are already using it for many, many years. Yeah, next slide, please. So when you
Danny, I was trying to chime in and I pressed the wrong button. Yeah, I was. Oh. Yeah, like based on our experience as well, even though we have the same amount of data, but we noticed that the operators or the end users, they're interacting much more frequently with their archive with the help of video analytics and AI. They just find out much more information in the archive, so they interact more with it. That the data become more valuable nowadays.
Yeah, in our testing, actually, because we work with a lot of manufacturers in our testing, one of the key points that we've seen is the workload is also changing. From storage perspective,
exactly.
We always remember, we don't care what is the recording, what is the resolution. For us, it's just another workload, right? Workload is what comes into storage. But the workload of AI versus normal recording is totally different, right? You can think about it as one is dual lane highways, another one is one lane highways. Because one lane highway is like your data is continued to be streaming. Whether you have 1,000 camera or 500 camera, each of them set a different frame rate, different resolution, irregardless, it's still sequential workloads because all the data will come in and non-stop. The streaming will continue. But when you have AI, the metadata size, which is traditionally small, it will just grow and grow and grow, right? There are many things that is growing. So from our testing, we just see that, oh, there's a need for better sequential and random performance because we want to make sure that when you do AI, when you reference to those metadata or those spatial templates, you are able to make it in a sense that is not losing. We are not. You are not facing an issue where you have reduced performance and all those things. So for us, is to make sure that we enable that solution for the customer.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the question is, what is Seagate's story in the space, right? What is Seagate doing? Constantly when I'm on a lot of webinar, I'm always very, very passionate about saying so because I always think that we have something different to share and something people may not actually know to share. So Seagate actually, our goal and our vision is very simple. We just want to make sure that we enable people to store more and make use of the data that they store, right? Because we know, right, if you store more, well, which is for us, we are a storage company. We want people to store more. Just like GPU, just like NVIDIA want you to compute more AI, do more AI. Same like Intel wants you to compute more. We want you to store more because we believe that storing a data, you will be able to make more use of that. When you think about the cloud players, when you think about internet companies, right? Why do they actually motivate you to give them more data? That's because they make use of the data, right? So the thing is, if we can make use more of the data, right, then they will retain, like all these guys, right? All these internet companies, they need to store your data 3 copies, 4 copies, and they store it for a long time. They will never delete it unless you delete it, right? Why do they are doing that? Because they are making use of the data that's they collected because they can monetize. I think the keyword is monetize the data. So in our space, maybe we are not doing advertisements, but it's really how do they help you to operationalize or make business sense or business decision. I think that's very important. Yeah. So next slide, please.
Okay. Hold on.
Yeah. So for us, we always say this, people know Seagate as a hard disk drive company, but definitely we want to be seen as a data storage company. So data storage encompass a lot of things, right? Data company encompass a lot of things. There are many aspects of it, yet we are still a true breed hardware core technology provider. So we are in the hardware business. So Seagate, many people know Seagate as hard disk drive manufacturers, but many people may not actually know that we are actually also a storage system provider. We've been selling primarily to the OEMs for many years, right? For the past 30 years, we have shipped more than 1 million systems. These systems that you see on the slide today, we have systems that range from entry level 12 drive kind of modular storage enclosure to hybrid array, which is really a very high performance block storage, right? To, for example, in the cloud space, right, you wanted to use a lot of high density storage systems. We do have a mass capacity storage platform, right? So I'm sure that a lot of you may be thinking about, well, if I have a multiple petabytes projects, what will be the solution? We should be the partner that you should talk to because more than 80-90% of the storage cost is actually on the hard drive, right? When it comes to petabytes of projects. So that's where we can help and support that. We are also the only vertically integrated provider, right? Which means that Seagate is the one building our hard drive from component to the drive, to the chassis of the system, to the controller that we use in the storage system. It's the end-to-end solutions that we deliver. So we actually will be on one neck to choke for your storage solution, right? When it comes to the solution. But one thing that I want to highlight is we are not a server company. So we are not in the business to do server compute. I think many of you might say that, oh, I don't want to buy storage alone. I want to buy server and storage from one brand. But the one thing that you should consider is, right, the server and the storage in many different industry, they already started to decouple, right? We call it commoditization. The trend is happening. So the thing is, server and storage, any storage can work with any server, right? I mean, that's how you can put the solution together. But the thing is, the value is really on the total cost of ownership, the flexibility, and also not being locked out. So I think as you see more solution in the cloud space, you will see that people can freely use any solution. They don't need to use from one brand or everything from one solution, right? I think that's flexibility. There's always pros and cons. Next slide, please. So many of you know Seagate for our devices business. We have a whole portfolio of devices range from our hard disk drive that is optimized for recording, like our Skyhawk product that go into NVR, DVR. And we also have Skyhawk AI that actually, as I mentioned, is a product that on top of recording, we actually optimize for some random performance to take in AI workloads, right? That we support AI NVR appliance. We also have a product that actually meant for server storage and for I/O, like for example, Exos and Nitro. But what many people may not know is our enterprise storage portfolio. We play in a SAN storage, we play in all-flash array, and we play in JBOD. So these are the three primary storage ranges that we have in our portfolio. That I think for surveillance, SAN storage and JBOD will be more suited, right? It go hand in hand. All flash is a question mark because all flash array today, a lot of time you use it for IOPS acceleration. For example, if you have online database processing, right? Or if you have very high performance requirement, then you're basically buying all flash array. But all flash array is very, very expensive because of the IOPS it can deliver. One system can go up to few hundred thousands to millions of IOPS. But if you don't need IOPS, surveillance is primarily a sequential, very throughput focused type of application and use cases. Yeah. Next slide, please. As mentioned, our product, we have a simple product range. We only have three range of product. We have the Exos E, which is JBOD, start from 12 drive up to 84 and up to 106. 4U 106 drive is actually probably the industry largest density storage JBOD, right? In one storage 4U, you can have 106, 1.7 petabytes of storage capacity. And by the way, we just announced 18 terabyte. We're going to make it available very, very, very soon, right? Very soon means that probably next month or another 1 or 2 months. And you can actually get a lot more storage from one box, right? And the benefits of it is you kind of shrink down the footprint. You can actually have into it can be a more dense pack type of solution. And of course, we have Exos X, which is our maiden RAID storage product. I think this one, we only have two products. We have a 12 bay 2U, or we have a 5U 84. Both can be expanded using a JBOD. That means you can add on to expand, right, to a certain storage size that you need. And in a market where you are building a cloud storage and all the solutions, you will start to see the emergence of what we call application platform. So application platform is actually a storage with two servers. It's a blade server. But the question that a lot of people ask is, can I install an NX on the server? The answer is no. The purpose of the server is not to do a VMS. It's not for your management server, recording server. It's actually for you to install your software-defined storage software, like SUSE and all these things. Because right now, instead of using a hardware, a lot of people want to use software to manage their storage, right? So this is all the cloud storage platforms out there are managed by software. So this is type of solution.
A quick question, Danny. So I remember Seagate has a Seagate House monitoring application. So that is also building the EXOS application platform, or all the platform has that functions?
Not all the platform has that function. All our platform have health monitoring. But when you talk about extensive, we will continue to integrate some of the new technology into our product moving forward. In fact, that's the reason why we are actually decided to actually promote our own brand. Because as you know, traditionally when we go through OEMs, OEM for many reasons, they want to optimize supply chain, right? Because they have many other vendors. It's very difficult for them to use our technology because the market in hard drive or the core technology provider for storage, moving forward is going to be a bit different because each of them might have a different technology, slightly different technology. So right now, the question that we ask ourselves is, if we have such technology, like in the data protection, data security space, if we don't have a chance to promote to the end user or to the channel, then what's the use of having those technology? So right now, that's why we want to promote our solution. When you buy our solution, you will be assured that it's using all the technology that we have from our core devices like the drives, up to the storage layer, up to the software layer.
It's the application layer. Got it.
Yeah. And we will continue. Like, for example, we have some solutions that we put it in that we support very interesting technology like Hammer and all these things. We want to make it sure that it is actually applicable in our solution.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. So this is one slide that kind of help you understand how our storage system can be used. Well, in a mid-range type of solutions, which is typically less than 500 camera, a JBOD you can basically make it as easy as your server might have a RAID card. You want to connect directly to the JBOD and provide redundancy to the JBOD, right? Because the JBOD is just your extension of your storage. You can do so if you want to. But we are also seeing more customers adopting a multi-server kind of architecture, a distributed architecture. Because, like NX, you have a limitation on, you have a maximum for your one server to do 128 cameras. So if you want more, you might either use a virtual machine or you actually use more servers. So in this type of environment, you will have a multiple server connected to a network and then stored to our SAN storage. The SAN storage is actually a centralized storage that that will be assigned storage. Storage for each of the server. So which means that you provide very fast speed access for your storage or your database, right? Because I know that in some of the VMS, you actually have live database, which is the recording that you do live, and also archive. So it depends on where you want to put the database. You can still put some of the storage on the server storage and then move it over to the centralized storage, because the centralized storage is 5 nines. So it's very high reliability, active performance, right? So it provides you the scalability as well, because you see on our mid-range, we can even go up to about 768 terabyte type of storage with our expansion. Yeah. Then when it comes to larger deployment, typically you have like thousands of cameras in the space where it's larger. Some people might actually think about using hyperconverged infrastructure. So hyperconverged infrastructure basically is basically using more software, right? So you have server, you can connect to a JBOD, right? Basically each of them become a node, one node. So then it can provide you the data protection, data automation, right, that you need. But because you are using a server, you can also do the server storage, but in this case, that if you need high capacity, you actually can use the JBOD. But what I want to emphasize more is the multiple server with SAN architecture, which is the similar to upper part, right? This is where you have multiple server supporting, each of them supporting 128 cameras, or you have VMs, right? That's in a single physical server that write to one storage system. So our storage system can provide a scalability. We can go up to 5.3 petabytes. So because surveillance, right, you usually will not go like 20, 30 petabytes, right? So you will still use more decentralized kind of approach. That means you have one site have some cameras, one site have some cameras. You will not actually centralize everything like in a very central environment. So I think 5.3 petabytes should be more or less good enough for this type of use cases. But
yeah, and many. Yeah, in some cases, like not only the storage capacity, but the network throughputs between different sites is also that's actually limited the centralized storage
Exactly,
scenarios as well. Yeah.
exactly. And if you look at some of the larger solutions, like cloud solution, that's a different thing because most of the cloud solutions today, they do not use traditional enterprise architecture. They probably will utilize software. So this is where you can using our application platform or our JBOD, right? High density JBOD to provide it as a storage extension. Yeah. Okay.
I see. Yeah.
Next slide, please. Yeah. So our integration with NX can be divided into two parts. So on the drive side, I mean, we've been working with NX for a while. I mean, of course, using our drive, and then we also integrated on selected platform or selected partners that have their own hardware. We also provide agent, right, to integrate with NX Witness to be able to do health monitoring. That means we'll take the data out of the drive and then we'll be able to publish into a dashboard and push it as an alert to NX Witness kind of VMS. So this is one part that we have done. But what we want to focus today is really more so from a centralized video storage perspective, working with NX on the multiple server to be able to record to our centralized storage. So we want to know in a typical use case how well it performs, right? So later stage we will talk about the actual testing results, and then from there you can see how it actually performs. Next slide, please. Yep. So why should you consider network storage? I think, as I mentioned, a lot of customers, they want to think about scalability. Scalability is one point. No single point of failure is very, very important because if you think about that, your NVR, basically if you have RAID, so if compared to our product, which we have dual controller, everything is dual redundancy, very high performance, very high reliability. So it's definitely very important. Scalability, as mentioned, and total cost of ownership. So SAN storage or network shared storage is actually very, very important for projects like larger projects because you want to be able to spread out. You don't want to actually centralize everything into your server, right? If you put everything into your server, if the server is down, yes, you have server failover, but that becomes a point as well. You want to make sure you have the right data protection. Next slide. I think the next two slides we can just talk through, right? Because, I mean, we know the market has a market for NVR, DVR. There were definitely markets for VMS. And also we are seeing more and more VMS being used in the mid-range market, enterprise market as well, because it provides a lot of visibility. But NVR, DVR is still there to go. I think it still serves its purpose. Next slide. Yep, I think we talk about this. We can just go next slide. Yep. Yep, I want to focus a bit on time, a few minutes before we move on to talk about our competitive advantage or edge. Just remember the four pillars, right? Our competitive advantage is really on the word safe, right? So S stands for streaming. So streaming is very critical for video surveillance because streaming is the one that makes sure that you have frame loss or no frame loss or be able to catch all the frames. Video surveillance is an extremely streaming optimized, right? Use cases. So Seagate streaming always derive into two things that create streaming, that optimize for streaming. Number one is the hard disk drive because hard disk drive provide the throughput. And another one is the controller performance. So our controller all utilize Seagate's own ASIC controller. That means we build our own controller. So it provides, we have a technology called RealStream. We can actually prioritize the stream and queue the stream. So make sure that the important large video stream like 4K can first go through first. So Seagate, for many years, one of our other very important market for our storage system is actually media and entertainment. So as you all know, media entertainment requirement for streaming is even more stringent. Taking video, doing broadcasts, filming video in RAW. So you need a lot of streaming capacity. But there are also challenges, right? I think the market generally right now, when I ask a lot of people, what is your data protection or data redundancy preference? A lot of them are still using RAID. Yes, RAID is great for certain application, but if you think about that, when it comes to your application, right now we announced 18 terabyte. The drive is going to get bigger and bigger. If you think about that, can I use RAID in 20 terabyte, 30 terabyte? Because 10 terabyte data rebuild time is 55 hours, right? If let's say one of the big point that we all discuss with the customers is, I don't dare to use too high capacity drive. I know it's the total cost of ownership is lower, but I don't dare to use because the rebuild time is just going to be very, very long. And then when rebuild time, the performance of the storage will drop a lot because everything will be used to build that drives. So that's why we are trying to address this market with a technology that's similar to what cloud storage is using. It's called erasure coding. Erasure coding, how it works is it actually allocate a space in every drive. So every drive will have a space for them to do data redundancy, self-healing. So when we do not have parity, we do not need to stand by one drive there to do rebuild whatever thing, right? To do parity. So what it does is all the drive will be used. If there's one drive fail, it will take each of the drive data from the drive and put it back to this drive so they can rebuild faster. So our rebuild time can actually be way faster than the traditional rate, right? More than 90%. But it also depends on how many drives you have. If you have very, very small pool of drives, then it doesn't make sense because you do not have enough, right? But our adapt will start from 16 drive and above. So if you have 16 drive and above, in a project, if let's say you have 50 drive, 54 drive, I think it shouldn't be a problem. The more drive it is, the faster the rebuild time.
So Danny, during the testing, I remember one of your engineer actually manually pull out a drive and then there's no frame drop and there's no any system issue or failure. That's because of this ADAPT technology, right?
That's correct. So because we don't need to stand by a drive for parity, so basically, I mean, there's no impact to it because we can afford like up to 3 drives failure, and then basically is kind of built for those environment, right? So the whole concept of RAID versus erasure coding is slightly different. Yeah, so that's why we think that this will reduce the barrier of customers trying to use higher capacity drive, right? Because if you only have an option to use 12 terabyte, 10 terabyte because you're afraid, then this is a solution. But I also know that in the market, it also depends on the spec in, on the consultant if they're aware of such technology. So there's still education needs to be done, right? But at least, but one of the things that I want to highlight is, if you ever think of cloud providers like Amazon, Google, and all these guys, none of them are using RAID. None of them are using RAID. And why every time we have 20 terabyte, 18 terabyte, very highest capacity, they will take it? Because they don't care, they are not afraid of data redundancy or rebuild time, because data rebuild time is not a problem for them, because they are using technology like replication or erasure coding. But in surveillance, replication doesn't work. Would you actually have 1 copy of video and replicate 3 copies? It takes
I don't think so. Yeah.
So too expensive. So that's why a lot of people will want to look into technologies like erasure coding, where the overhead will be slightly higher than RAID. Actually, our overhead is slightly higher. It's a few % higher than RAID 6. But yet we can provide you the data protection and reduce down the kind of rebuild time by significantly.
Using larger drives.
Yeah, using larger drives. You can offset the cost per terabyte, you see, right? And of course, the next two F and E is really important. First to market, we like 18 terabyte. If you're going to use OEM, it maybe take you 6 months, 8 months later to be able to enable the largest capacity. That's because they wanted to make sure that they optimize it. But I kind of mentioned it before. The reason why we believe that we have advantage, because a lot of this technology is built by Seagate, optimized for Seagate. We roll it out for Seagate, right? So I think for as a partners, they utilize a solution, you will have the opportunities to use the latest technology. But last but not least, I want to talk about is encryption, because data security becomes more and more important. So I'm seeing more requirement for FIPS 140-2 common criteria in some of the projects that you are seeing everywhere, not only in the US or Europe, like GDPR, but everywhere. So Seagate, number one, we built our encryption drive. The good thing about drive encryption on a drive is there's no performance impact because we do not take on any resource. So, and our storage system comes with a key management to be able to support all the drives encryption. We can encrypt the drive on the fly, and it provides a compliance, right? So we can support, we have up to FIPS 140-2 on our drive. So we can definitely support, we have common criteria. So it depends on what type of solutions do you need? Because for us, we have the drive level and we have the solution level as well. Yep, I think that's more or less about it. I mean, Jason, before we move to the stress test.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. So, everyone, sorry, I forgot to mention, there's a chat or Q&A button. If you have any questions, please feel free to type the questions there. So Danny and I we will have about 10 to 15 minutes of time for the Q&A. So feel free to let us know if you have any questions, okay? So later on, I will share with you the test process we have done with Seagate and also a partner of Seagate called Chronicle. Basically, the test we were trying to understand. We're trying to understand how to run NX Witness in the virtualized environment, like a private cloud environment, to see how it works when there are 1,000 cameras connected to 10 NX servers that are merged to a system, and all the servers, all the videos are recorded to a centralized storage locations. So we have published a document on our website, and Seagate also have the document on their marketing places. So if you feel like knowing more details, feel free to contact us or go to our website and search for Seagate, and you will find a detailed test report immediately. Okay, this is the test environment we have. So we are running the NX server application on a Dell PowerEdge server. So with a dual Intel Xeon core and a lot of RAM and 10 gigabyte NIC. So basically we are running NX server on Ubuntu Linux. And at the same time, we also running a camera stream emulator, a Tascam software on the same hardware. So we are running actually 20 virtual machines on this single physical servers. Yeah, and there's another 10 gig switch for that. So for the setup, I won't go too much detail. So there's a detailed descriptions about how we use the virtualization, how we configure the virtualization based on VMware ESXi, and how we set up the MTU on each clients and on each switches. Okay, so in case you like to know more about the detail, all the informations are actually included in our technical documents of the test process. So this is the hard drive. This is the storage solution we use from Seagate. It's a centralized network storage arrays. So maximum it can take, we put 84 8 terabytes hard disk, enterprise hard disk in the testing. Yeah, okay. So this is the software we use. VMware ESXi and NX Witness, the latest v4.1 version. And this is also a Tascam camera emulator. So if you are interested in using this application, you can go to our support portal and download it. It's very helpful for you to run stress testing based on different environments. Basically, you just download the video file from anywhere, and then you put the video file as a source and use the Tascam emulator to stream then as an OnVIF camera to your VMS server for the testing. So that's how we use that. Yeah, and NX Witness are running on Ubuntu Linux in the testing, and the Tascam is running on Windows Server 2016. So this is the software environments we have. The overall architecture is like this. I will spend a little bit more time right here. So here is the NX server. There are 10 of them running in 10 different virtual machines. Okay, so these virtual machines are with a Ubuntu 18.04, and we merge all these 10 servers into a Hive system. That's how we call it, a Hive system. So then you can see there is another 10 camera emulator in another 10 virtual machines, okay, running on Windows 2016. So all the camera emulator are streaming videos to NX servers. So each server are taking care of 100 video strings. I should say 200 video string. 100 of them are high resolution, another 100 of them are low resolutions. Okay, so total 10 servers, 1,000 strings. And at local, the users are using NX client, desktop client, or web client to log into the system. The web client will log in to see the health monitoring. The desktop client will log in to perform like daily surveillance operations. If the operators are at local, they connect to the merged system locally. Like me or my colleagues from our headquarters in the USA, we are logging to the Seagate systems based on NX Cloud. Okay, so there are two ways to connect to the system to view the video and see the health monitoring information. Okay, so at the beginning, we made a test based on 1,000 Full HD IP camera. So the primary string is 1080p, 30 frames per second, and the secondary string is 480 times 272 with 7 frames per second. It's like the typical dual strings from a camera. Okay. So as I mentioned, every NX server with 100 cameras and 10 NX server all matched with the 5U84 for the default recording. And each virtual machine, we assigned 4 virtual CPU plus 8 GB of RAM and a 50 GB of OS drive based on SSD. Okay. So in total, there are 84 8 terabyte Seagate SAS drives in the 5U84. Okay, so this is one of the very interesting and large capacity of testing we have done actually so far. Yeah. So the test result is based on 2 software monitoring applications. The first one is NX Witness Building Health Monitoring Dashboard. So it can be accessed via a web browser. The other one, Seagate use management software called SolarWinds Network Management. Yeah, and a highlight of the result. So the average CPU of every NX server is only around 43%. Per server average throughput is 735 megabit per second. And we have 0.001% of drop frames, including manually remove a hard drive from the system. Yeah. So it was a very high successful ratio for frame capture. Yeah.
I think
so this is
Jason, just to add on, I think some of the industry standard where we look at like requirement for frame drops to be able to achieve 0.001 is really close to, well, it's really close to
like 0. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can see a detailed list of average CPU and bit rates across the 10 different servers. Again, if you're interested in reading more of the technical details, you can just download the document from our website. And other thing I forgot to mention is right here. So actually the 4U84, if I remember correctly, it can take around 5.5 gigabit per second of bit rate, right?
No, Danny? Gigabyte per second.
Oh, gigabyte, sorry. Gigabyte,
yeah,
yes, gigabyte.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, the 5U84 exactly. has 2 controllers. Total sequential, what we call throughput, is 5.5 gigabytes per second. So in most of the cases, we are seeing that it's definitely a lot of room for you to add on workloads. When we say add on workload, means that if today you only, at most you only, like in this case, it's only 735 megabits, right? So it's definitely a lot of room. So then you can add on server. You can assign storage, and then performance is not a problem because it's just there's still a lot of space. But of course, we usually won't use, we won't consume all the resource, right? We want to make sure that we have enough for data protection. We want to have enough for, but even with that 5.5, there's still a way.
Still a lot, yeah. So this was actually the interesting part because we were planning to do 1,000 1080p cameras, and after that, one of the Seagate engineers say, "Come on, this is nothing for the 5U84." So we started to think about why don't we just use the same setup and give more strings, or I should say give more data for the 5U84. That's how we started to thinking about why don't we just do a 1000 4K cameras based on the same setup to see how far it can goes. Yeah. So actually, this comes out from the first testing scenario. We were thinking about let's try even harder for that. So we have exactly the same setup, the same server, the same virtual machine configuration, and the same virtual machine resources are assigned to NX Witness. The only things we change, I think I should say, the only two things we change, of course, is the first, the video strings, right, from 1080p to 4K 30 frames. The second string also become larger, become like a VGA, a little bit smaller than VGA and 7 frames per second. So we still use the same virtual machine resources for NX server for that. And I think we also spend some time to fine tune the packet size from the video so that 4U84 can be more effectively taking care of all the resources, the streaming go there. Yeah. So again, we are using these two monitoring application, the NX Witness System Health Monitoring and also the SolarWind. So you can see that the CPU usage rate increased to 89%. It's 4 virtual CPU per server and 8 GB of RAM only. Yeah, so of course we have much more RAM we can utilize for that. But I am afraid we don't have more CPU to assign for that because we already use a lot of CPU, virtual CPU for the NX server, at the same time, virtual CPU for the camera emulators. So we didn't increase the virtual CPU amount in this case. And as expected, we can see the bitrate increase to 1,488 megabit per second for that. Still, compared to the maximum capacity of 5.5 gigabit per second, this is still not a big challenge for the 5U84. And the overall drop frame is still keep very, very low to 0.005% only. Yeah. So we can see some of the server, like this one, server 5, the CPU usage is a little bit higher. I think one of the reasons could be some of the clients are connecting to the server simultaneously. Yeah, but overall, the frame drop rate is still very, very low of that. Yeah. So this is one of the very interesting testing we've been doing recently to run a VMS software NX Witness in a totally virtualized environment, like a private cloud situation. And then we are seeing tenders that require larger capacity. That's why we team up with Seagate to try out the 5U84 enterprise shared storage solutions for this one. The test result was really good, and we are also very surprised about the performance of the throughputs we can handle based on the virtual machine environments. Yeah. Yeah. So, Danny, you have like some of the summaries for us?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Jason. It's really a very good and close partnership that we have with NetOptics globally. As I mentioned early on, I think it's a great opportunities that we are able to share some of our thoughts and point of view, as well as our opportunity to share our solution. I hope that today's session provided some insights and things that is different, right, from the usual way that when you know Seagate is mostly about hard drive. I think that we have given you perspective that where we are heading. So yeah, to probably end more, I mean, I will probably also want to highlight that there are a lot of resources that you can actually go and gather more information, find out more about Seagate, right? Understand more about a different side of Seagate. So you can go to our website to download the Rethink Data report. There's a lot of good insights, not only for the IT market, for the IoT market. I believe that we are all, surveillance is probably one subset of IoT right now because of all this convergence. So there's a lot of good things that you can learn from this report, right? Like where is this growing, what are pain points? It can give you a better perspective in planning your solution. And secondly, I also wanted to point you to our recent DataSphere event. We actually did a big virtual event in recently that we also invited NetOptics. So you can actually scan the QR code, register yourself, go and look at some of the videos and some of the on-demand playback. We actually talk about cloud. We actually talk about object-based storage. We have a lot of solutions that we actually announced doing that will give you a different ideas, right? Where the market is heading as well. Because I believe that the surveillance market is following through the IT market and some of the market quite closely right now. It's getting closer, right? At the stage where it was slow, but think about it, when you come to VMS and larger projects, a lot of time IT will get involved. Even like Seagate, if you have deployed a solution right now, IT will get involved because you have network, you have all this other thing, including cloud infrastructure. So definitely it's a different way of selling moving forward for us. So that's why it is important to get more perspective where the market is heading. Thanks for the opportunity, and I think we can probably spend a few minutes if there's any question.
Yeah, it's our pleasure, Danny, actually. Because most of the tenders or project we see so far is based on the so-called server storage solution, a server with A12 drives on it. Yeah, and nowadays we are seeing more and more cameras because of the so-called trend of AI plus IoT or AI video analytics, and users find video data much more useful and valuable. So we are seeing a lot of demanding on the storage demands. So based on that, again, I have to emphasize, so the software architecture of NX, the Hive architecture, we can have a very lightweighted servers. Like in this case, we are running multiple virtual machine in a Dell server, but on the other hand, we can run NX server in something like an Intel NUC mini computer, but in the backend, we all attach Seagate centralized storage to that, no matter for main recording or backup recording for that. So the architecture can be very flexible, depends on how the project, how the use cases, how the scenario it is. For centralized recording, including an edge server, but we can manage it, can protect the data on the same shared storage at the same time. So it actually opens the door for no matter from the edge recording backup to control, or the mid-sized commercial projects, or even the cloud related applications for that. There's a lot we can design and discuss about how to deploy an X Plus Seagate solution, how we use the storage solution on that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's good. Yep.
So is there any questions so far, everyone? Oh, good.
Yeah. If there's any question, reach out to Jason, and of course, you will be able to reach out to us. I mean, we can then follow up with you with the partners here, and then to share more about the solutions, right? If you have any further question or want us to probably share more with you. Yep.
So after our webinar today, I will send a follow-up emails with the link to download the test reports based on the stress test. And I will have Danny in the copy as well. If you have some questions after reading the reports, please feel free to reply us, okay?
Sounds great.
Yeah, that's it. So if there's no questions, let's call it a day. Danny, thanks a lot for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Please take care. Stay safe. Yeah. Yep. Talk to you soon, Danny.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.